Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Club Thrive, the podcast with me, Kate Sterling, and a very noisy computer. So I'm hoping this you can hear me okay, and rather than the whirring of the engine of my computer, and perhaps you can't hear it and I can. And it's a very good reminder of how our perspectives can be different depending on our environment. So now you probably are listening out for the whirring of a computer, whereas before you wouldn't have even noticed it. So it's just interesting what we decide to draw attention to, and I invite you to always be aware of these things because it is a very common trait if you're also someone that puts yourself down without realizing it. So, if you apologize about your appearance all the time, or you do a good job and then you say you could have done it better, or you have done something and then you draw attention to the mistake rather than just kind of saying, here's my best work. It's just a very interesting way of noticing where you find evidence to basically take away from the good things that are going on. So anyway, it's very on point with this week's episode as well, because this week I am going to give you some tips on how to restart and or reboot and kickstart your self-belief and your self-trust. And I think for me, those two things are very linked. Self-trust, self-belief, they're kind of slightly different. Trust to me suggests that you're kind of going to allow things to happen as they do. And that belief is that kind of real motivator or empowering thought behind everything you're doing. So depending on your own interpretations, you might think they're very similar, you might have different reactions to the words. It's always interesting to see what comes up for you. And I actually have trust tattooed on my wrist. Trust is something that means a lot to me, and building your self-trust is at the core, I think, of everything, especially when you're a creative or you're self-employed or you're a business owner, especially in these categories. I mean, obviously in any job, in any environment, we need trust in ourselves. And whenever you've been in situations where you haven't felt like you have trusted yourself, that's when things like imposter syndrome come up, or self-consciousness, or perhaps you don't give your best performance or your best kind of portrayal of yourself because you're nervous or anxiety takes over. And that's because inside, perhaps the inner critic has got much louder, perhaps that element of trusting yourself has reduced as a result. And so, those more unhelpful emotions take over. Now, I have trust tattooed on my wrist because when I was at drama school, I was my own harshest critic, and this was a long time ago now. This was 8 years ago, pretty much. I would be so self-conscious. I never fully allowed myself to really trust myself, to really go with my intuition. I loved being at drama school, but I was always my harshest critic. So there was always this element of I could have done better. And I think as creatives and as people who care about our work, we are people that are always looking to refine ourselves and to be better. And especially when you're working in industries where perhaps you've got a lot of eyes on you, if you work in the fitness industry, the health industry, if you are on stage, if you're performing, if you're presenting, if you are, the leader of an organization, there's a lot of eyes on you, and we can become very self-critical. And the more self-critical we become, the kind of smaller that sense of trust in ourselves becomes, because we're constantly looking for the things and the evidence that says we're not good enough. So third attempt at telling this story. When I was at drama school, there was a couple of lessons that we had in an area called Alexander Technique. And it's very useful, actually, if you're someone that doesn't feel very confident in your body, have a Google of Alexander Technique. It really helps to give you spatial awareness around you and helps with your posture and all sorts of things. But we had this teacher who in one class said to me, you need to learn to trust yourself and to know that you are giving your best effort, essentially, or words to that effect. And I really remember this experience because it was the first time someone had said to me quite explicitly, well, probably not the first time, I'm sure people have said it to me before, you can do it, that kind of thing. But it was that first kind of sense of, You need to believe in yourself for this to work. You need to stop trying to be like everyone else. You need to stop trying to do the right thing, in inverted commas. You need to trust yourself that you are going to do the right thing because of your skills, your ability, your experience, and you, who you are at your core. And this had such a lasting effect on me because I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I need to trust myself to be the very best version of myself that I can be, because I can't be anything else than that. And so I decided to go and get trust tattooed on my wrist. I wrote it on a piece of paper, and I looked at the piece of paper and I was like, I'm going to go and get this done. And as actors, and, you know, if you work in an area of any industry, I guess, where we're kind of told to be clean or to look a certain way for job opportunities, you know, I was like, oh, should I get this done? What if this doesn't allow me to get period work? You know, I'd already, as actors, you kind of keep your appearance pretty similar to your headshots, for example. I was like, what if this stops me getting work? And at the end of the day, it was a bit rebellious of me, really. I kind of hadn't done anything like that before. And I was like, do you know what? I just really want this as a reminder on my wrist to look at, to trust myself in those moments where I might have lost that self-trust. And so I went and got it done. And it probably isn't really a very big deal. It's like 5 letters. But for me, having this word on my wrist, and I'm not saying you have to go and get trust tattooed on your wrist, but having that as a visual reminder for me has helped me in so many situations. It has become a mantra that I kind of have lived by in the moments where I perhaps feel as though I am not doing as well as I could do, or that kind of fear has set in, or I feel like I'm about to make a decision I don't know the outcome of. And it kind of reminds me that, because actually what happened after getting this tattoo was that a lot imploded in my personal life. Like I just got married, that ended. I had to move back in with my parents. There was a lot of things that then kind of left me to really redesign how I wanted to live my life. And now, if I was to go through those experiences again, I would be much better equipped for them. I've built that resilience, I've built that experience. And this is my invitation to you as well, to remind yourself that we're constantly learning. And if you're finding a situation hard right now, it's not because you're incapable. It's possibly that it's new, or that it's bringing up some older limiting beliefs about yourself, or you're feeling a bit isolated or alone. And it's not that you're not capable, it's just that it's a new situation. And often we need help. Sometimes we need to say, okay, I need to go out there and get some support here. And that's okay as well. And by remembering that self-trust in yourself, you can remember and know that if you need to seek help in whatever way, it doesn't make you a failure. It means that you're going to be better for it. After my marriage ended, I've been so open about this. You guys have probably already heard this story about 50 million times, but I had to go to the GP. I'd lost all sense of hope. I was, very much on the edge with my mental health, borderline, didn't want to be alive anymore. And so I went to the GP because I needed help. I was doing all the things. I was exercising, I was eating well, I was sleeping, I was doing lots of yoga, I was journaling, don't know why I said yoga like that, but I was doing all the things and I just wasn't well. And so I decided to go to the GP because I'd lost my sense of hope. And I went on antidepressants, I had therapy. And so this is my reminder to you as well, that you're not, like, as human beings, we are put in situations that sometimes we're not prepared for. And it's when we start to put ourselves down in those situations that we really reduce that element of self-trust as well. We really start to put ourselves down. And so if you're having a moment like that, just know it's not for forever. It's that belief in yourself that you are capable of getting yourself out of that hole or the crevice, or however big the kind of situation feels to you. You are capable of climbing out of it. And it might take time. It might be a short-term thing, depending on the situation. But it is about that belief and that mindset shift that says, I am capable of dealing with this situation in front of me. To know that, I've read a lot in the past about how we shouldn't be, like, as women, we shouldn't need to be resilient. We shouldn't have to keep on going. We should be more in our feminine energy. And I agree to an extent, but also there is nothing wrong with grit and determination and resilience. And it's when you've used up all of your grit and determination and resilience and you're still struggling that it's all okay to kind of say, I need help. And that's, I think, if you are hyper independent, if you are ambitious, you're a high achiever, you care a lot about your work, those kind of more yang, drive, masculine types of energies, it can be hard to say, I'm struggling and I need help. And it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. In fact, there is huge strength in that vulnerability. As Brené Brown says, the power in vulnerability, the power in saying, I need some help here, is massive. And so what I would say is, never feel like you can't reach out for help. It's why I worked with a coach, my own coach, and I am so grateful for that time and money I spent on it. And this thing as well of giving yourself that time. We are living in a society now where everything is instant, where there is so much information out there about people's successes. It's like you are never going to achieve enough if you are surrounded by all of that information and not also seeing the practicalities of what people are experiencing in their day-to-day. Even just the smallest caveats in terms of what people have in terms of help at home, especially if you have children. What else are people investing their money in? Do they also have a cleaner and a PA, and they have food delivered every day, and they have their washing done for them, and they have family support, and they have a partner who earns a very considerable income? You cannot compare your life if you don't have that. You can't compare if you are also starting up a new business, also in a relationship with someone that's self-employed, also don't have any family around, also, all these things, they contribute. Likewise, the things that you've had to overcome in your life. There's no point me trying to compare my life now to someone who's in their early 30s, having achieved more, in inverted commas. An achievement we kind of see probably as that materialistic success. Maybe it's because we also want that ourselves, which is totally fine. But there's no point comparing that. I feel like I lost about 8 years. I didn't lose 8 years of my life. I had to spend a good chunk, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years rebuilding and starting afresh. And I am so glad I did. And I think sometimes this is where goal setting, it's very handy to have specific goals. But sometimes if you don't really know where you're headed, sometimes it's just really being tangibly connected to that belief in yourself, into that self-trust, into saying, okay, well, I do know that I want financial security. I do know that I want to feel fulfilled from my work. I do know I want my health to be a part of the picture. I do know that I want to have family time. I do know that I want to go out with my mates. I do know that I want to wake up every day with energy. Those are all goals. Those are all very tangible things that you can work towards, rather than being like, I need to, have booked 4 jobs by the end of November. Sometimes in our industries, it's very, in the creative industries, for example, as an actor, or if you're an artist or a writer, whatever it is, sometimes it's not as practical as having those goals, because there is so much out of our control and so much out of your control. And it doesn't mean it's not possible. And I'm not saying don't go for it. I am a big believer in big dreams and just kind of like going for them. But in order to get there, you need to trust yourself, and you need to allow yourself to believe that it's possible. Because if we don't believe it's possible, then we will never get there, because we will self-sabotage. We will find reasons for us not to succeed. We will be nitpicking ourselves for the rest of our life without being able to also enjoy the moments that are happening in the now. And that's a massive part of it as well. Feed off the wealth in your life right now. We have so much more than what we realize. I mean, I even wrote about it when I went through my divorce. I was kind of like, I had to move back in my parents. I had nothing, and with my parents had nothing. And I look at that now, I'm like, I cringe, because I was like, God, I have so much. And when we can, I have a roof over my head, and I have hot water, and I have a fridge full of food whenever I want it. And I mean, and I know there are people living right now that don't have that, and that's a luxury. And a lot of these things are just a part of our life now, and we take it for granted. And connecting to the wealth of those small things that we don't even realize really helps to give you that boost, to give you that appreciation, to give you that energy, to give you that shift in perspective, to give you that shift in mindset, to say, wow, look at what I have. Because then it helps as well to help you with the internal shifts. So we can put as much on the outside as we want. We can buy clothes from certain designers. We can adorn our face in the most expensive of makeups. But if we don't believe in ourselves at the very core, then it's just a mask, and you will continuously make choices that hold you back, that don't put yourself out there. Or you will have moments where you come home and it's like, oh my God, thank God for that, and you need half a bottle of gin to decompress. And so it's about managing your energy, managing your belief system, whatever we decide to put on our face, whatever we decide to wear, so that at the end of the day, you have a balance throughout all of these places, these states, these environments, these situations, so that whether you're getting the attention and the support and the feedback or not, you feel the same about yourself. You still feel that same sense of self-belief. You still have that self-trust that is bubbling away as the strongest of groundings and foundations for you to grow from, like a tree. You're rooting down, and that connection to that floor, that malleability with the movement of the seasons and the movement of the weather, whether you want to visualize it like that or whether you have a different way of connecting to it, just know that things will change in your life and things can come out completely left field. And it's about that self-belief in those moments, to know that you have all the skills, all the experience to navigate them. And if you don't, you're going to learn them. And it's that real go out there and get it kind of energy, but without burnout. And the burnout comes when we're trying to constantly replicate our life to look like someone else's. When we're constantly saying, okay, well, I've got this, that's all right, but like, I want that. And that is like miles away. I want that $40 million house in Selling Sunset, because blimey, that looks well good. And we kind of get a little bit consumed by online kind of lifestyle porn and, the things that look great. I mean, God, yeah, I'd love to live in a house with a pool that overlooks wherever. One day, I hope to have that. But to get there, I need to also appreciate what I have right now, which is a 2-bed flat. And it's great. And it's warm and it's safe. And and so from that place, we have that better, that better ability to realise what we're capable of to move forwards. And it, like I said, it doesn't mean that you can't have goals. Goals are very important to know where you're working towards. What I am saying is that when things do get challenging, it's important to hold on to a light of some sort, of hope of some sort to move towards. And if you're not sure what that is right now, if you're a bit murky, it's okay. That will come over time. Like I think about my journey here with Club Thrive, and I sometimes wake up and I'm like, well, I know what I'm doing, but I'm still also figuring it out. And when we have that compassion for ourselves to be like, okay, well, the journey is just going to keep on going. I know who I want to work with. I know what mission I have. I know the lives I want to impact. I know I want you to have a great life. I know all these things, but it's the tweaking and the figuring things out and the kind of playing and getting things wrong and saying, okay, cool, that didn't work. Great. I love it when things don't work. Now I know a bit more about what will work. To see it more as this kind of this game and this play and this way of enjoying your life at the same time. And so I've got 3 suggestions of how you can really kickstart and reboot your self-belief and your self-trust in yourself. So we're October now. Oh, no, we're not. We're nearly end of October, nearly November. There's 2 months left of 2023. Whether you're listening to this, whenever, in October, November, whatever month it is, maybe it's 2025, whatever. How do you want to feel in 8 weeks' time? And if you place yourself 8 weeks down the line, say, and if it's Christmas time, like it's going to be here, at this kind of time, if you're listening to it in this duration, like November time, maybe it's thinking about how you want to feel as the clock strikes midnight at New Year's. How do you want to feel on Christmas Day morning? And when you imagine that and you connect to that and you understand what that means to you, you can then work backwards to decide how you want to do that. What do you need to change in your belief system about yourself? What do you need to prioritize? What do you need to trust yourself more in doing? These things as well will help you with anxiety. They'll help you to calm down your nervous system, which will help you to feel less stressed. It will improve your sleep. You'll be able to make better, clearer decisions. You'll have more energy. You'll feel more creatively alive. There's so many benefits to all of this stuff. And it all comes down to believing in you and also accepting that you, who you are at your core, is where all of this will come from, like the center of a flower, just to make it as kind of cliche as possible. But you will grow into whatever flower you are naturally designed to grow into. And it's what we bring from the inside out that will help you to bring that presence and that confidence and that energy that people want to be around. If we try to put that on top, whether it's with how we look, with the decisions that we make, that's where people pleasing can come in quite a lot as well, where we're trying to do all the things where we think people are going to like us more, where we think we're going to get a lot more of that respect. What happens is that's misaligned with us in ourselves and our values often. We end up doing things we don't want to do. We end up burning out. We end up not being satisfied, and we end up being a bit resentful because we see everyone else that's kind of doing the stuff we want to do, but we're just not brave enough to say it. And I get this a lot. I don't get it a lot, but I get it sometimes when I see coaches or people in this kind of field, or even people not in this field, who are doing in my vision better. Like a big one that I had recently was with accountability coaches who are helping people get fitter. And I was like, but I worked as a PT, and they're charging way more than I'm charging, and they're like way bigger than I am. So that means I must be rubbish. And it's not true. That's just my perception. And actually, I'm just a bit jealous that they've done a great job of what they've built. And what can I learn from that? And so when you get those feelings as well, where you might feel like someone's better than you, or you might feel like you are not happy where you are, or you kind of do have a little bit of that green-eyed monster come in, notice it and use it for your potential, use it for your good. Okay, well, what am I feeling a little bit jealous about over there? They're doing really well. What are they doing better than me? We have to be able to say, I can get better, I can improve, I can be a better version of what I am right now. Because if we can't do that, then we're not able to be humble, and we're not able to change. And also within that, we can then trust ourselves more because we listen to ourselves. We say, okay, I need some help in this area, or I could be more direct, or okay, I don't like confrontation, but maybe I need to learn to develop my boundaries a little bit better so I can go out there as myself, to come home feeling really satisfied because I went there and I was me. And if they didn't like me, or I didn't do such a good, if the results didn't come, then I can keep tweaking and I can keep figuring it out. And if I didn't get the job, if you've gone to an audition, at least you've done your best shot based on you. And I think that was a big thing for me as an actor as well, was being able to go out there and say, okay, I feel super confident in myself now because I'm trusting myself. And if they don't cast me, that's cool, because it just means I wasn't right for the job and a better one is coming. And so whatever reframes and whatever mindset shifts that you can make to help you, use them. Develop your own, whatever it is. And yeah, whenever you see coaches or creatives or whoever that you're like, oh my God, but I'm way better than them. Cool. Use that to feed your confidence, to say, okay, well, what are they doing? Are they being a bit more authentic than I am? Are they being a bit braver? Do I actually really want to do that? And there's something that's holding me back. So you can then also identify the limiting beliefs that you have that might be tugging you back to say, hang on, that's a bit scary. You've got to stay safe. For you to then reason with that limiting belief to say, no, actually, I want to go out there and try something different this time. It feels a bit nerve-wracking, but I'm going to work through that. I'm going to remind myself that I'm capable, and I'm going to give it my best shot. And if it all goes a bit tits up, then I've learnt from it. And maybe it won't happen again. Maybe they'll remember me. You never know. And so when we let go of that control as well, especially if you're someone that really likes to be in control, letting go of that control to allow things to come in that you would never have been able to create is very powerful too. So anyway, sorry, I got off track there. 3 ways to kickstart and reboot your self-trust. Number 1. Now, these are all things you can do very quickly, very tangibly. Number 1, find proof of 3 things, challenges or situations that you have overcome in the last 7 days, and they don't need to be big. So find proof. So think of a time, think of a situation, have a little quick reflection of 3 things, challenges, situations, or problems that you have overcome or solved in the last 7 days. It might have been deciding what coffee to have in the morning. It might have been that you dropped a plate of food and you cleaned it up. It might have been that you decided finally which school your child can go to. It might be that you have said something that was on your mind to your partner. It might be like you overslept and you got up and you still made a good day of it. It might be that you overslept and you just got up. There is always something, and this is about shifting your mindset as well into the possibility of there always being a solution. When we are stuck in a mindset of everything is shit all the time, that glass half empty kind of mentality, There is no possibility anywhere. And I'm not saying that life isn't awful sometimes. I'm, especially at the minute with the news, but just in general, whether it's the news or within your own life, challenging things happen. And it's about that sense of, okay, well, how can I find the best solution for this problem so that I have a direction to move towards? And this is also very helpful if you do feel a bit aimless right now, if you have lost a bit of your direction, is to kind of say, okay, well, where do I kind of want to be headed? Where do I not want to be right now? How do I not want to feel? And that in itself can give you some clarity on how you do want to feel. So find proof of 3 things, challenges or situations that you have overcome in the last 7 days. You might have been able to think of 3 things that you overcame yesterday. Number 2, ask yourself, if I had a magic wand, what would I change? So if you had a magic wand, right, it means that anything is possible. What would you change? And, is it that you would change how you're living? Is it that you would change your job? Is it that you would change what you're doing with your time? Is it that you would change your body? Is it that you would change your look? Is it that you would, I don't know, go shopping and strip down your wardrobe and buy a whole new pile of clothes that you have always wanted to wear but have never felt confident enough to? Is it that you would completely revamp your business? Is it that you would go and get that tattoo? Is it that you would cut your hair off and do something completely different with it? Whatever it is. Because a lot of the time we kind of contain ourselves into boxes, especially if you're creative, you're ambitious, you are self-employed, you're running your own jam. We get safe, and we want to stay safe because we obviously want to earn money, we want to stay financially secure, we want to provide our children with a safe environment, all of these things. We want to be a good partner, but these things can create fears that keep us stuck and that keep us trapped. And so, this is something I've been doing over the last couple of weeks. When you feel like within your work you are not happy, you feel like there's stuff that is going on all the time, it's time to take this reflection to get clear on why this is. Now, obviously, in a dream world, we would come up with our magic wand ideas and then just act upon all of them. Sometimes, obviously, that's not possible because of your family ecology or your needs at work or home or whatever. So family ecology just basically means that, you might not want to disrupt the status quo of your life. And so it's about saying then, okay, well, what is possible within those decisions, and playing with them and exploring them and saying, I don't want to keep living my life like this. I'm going to wave my magic wand. I'm going to close my eyes. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that sound like? And if you're watching this, you've noticed I've closed my eyes, do it. Close your eyes and get creative. And if you're employed full time, it might be that you've been desperate to set up your own business. Wave that magic wand and imagine what that would feel like. What does that look like? Is it possible that you can start in some way to create that reality, make that a reality? And I always caveat this information with, this is, very broad coaching advice, coaching tips. You are responsible for deciding how best to use that information. I always say this basically just mainly to cover my own back so that no one goes out there and does something reckless and then blames me for it. I don't think you would do that anyway, but, dream big, and then sometimes we need to take the risks to do it. Just don't do anything that's going to harm you or anyone else in the process, is basically what I'm saying. You don't have to go against your own moral compass or your values to create change. And to create massive change. Sometimes it's just the belief in, I'm just going to go out there and be myself. And that can feel quite massive, actually. So break that one down. What does being myself look like? What am I not doing? What is misaligned here? What am I not saying? Where do I hold myself back? What am I apologizing for that's not even my thing to apologize for? Okay, so that was number 2. Ask yourself, if I had a magic wand, what would I change? E.g. about what I'm doing now, how I live my life, how I spend my time, the money I earn, whatever it is, go big. And then number 3 is think of a time. So let's take a moment here, just take a breath. Let it out. And if you are in a space where you're able to close your eyes, you can do that. If you're out walking, just hone in on what you're hearing. And think of a time that you felt really strong, powerful, empowered, from that place of very clear self-trust, from a very strong inner place of self-belief and confidence in your own abilities. And as you're thinking of this time, and don't worry if it doesn't come to mind immediately, again, it can be something super simple. You made a great cup of coffee, whatever it is. Start to embody those feelings again. So when you think of that time, you might have even noticed that your posture has changed. And if it hasn't, you can shift your posture. Open out your chest, thinking of this time. Stand or sit taller, breathing deeper. Feeling that fire almost in your body, that real strength, that real kind of purpose from within, that real drive of muscularity within the body as you think of yourself in that strong, confident, powerful place or experience or memory, whatever it is. And if you aren't able to think of one, you can always pause this and think of one, or embrace the power pose, which is kind of hands on the hips, chest open, and softening the face, softening the jaw. So when we're stressed, everything tenses up. And to allow this self-trust to come in, we need to kind of allow our body to feel it, because that kind of jaw clenching and the frown, that's like stress, that's anxiety. Sometimes that can be powerful too. You need that energy. But if you soften the shoulders, soften the jaw, soften the belly, an area that we often keep held in, giving yourself that permission to be you without needing to be anyone else. Thinking of that time, thinking of those feelings, embodying them. What will you do next in your day to commit to holding on to this feeling? What will you do next in your day to commit to feeling like this again? What is possible when you realize what you are capable of? And so from this place, it might be that your next step today is actually like, I'm going to look after myself a bit better. I'm going to have some more positive thoughts about myself. I'm going to hold on to this feeling. It might be that you're, wherever you are in your day, that you decide to actually, you are going to get that early night tonight because you do want to do that workout tomorrow. It might be that you are going to bother replying to that message, or you are going to leave the house to go out and see your friends. You know, whatever it is, you are going to go and book in that thing for yourself that you've been putting off because you don't think you're deserving of it. Those feelings can be a really great way to come back to that place of self-trust, to help you to make decisions that you feel positive about, but from a place of strength and trust. So when we're making decisions that we are doing for other people, or that we do because we think we should, or that we're doing to try and hurry along a process, which is my biggest thing that I have to work on, is that patience. Especially if you're high achieving and you are ambitious, you want everything now, and we need to be patient. When you come at decision making from a place of self-trust and confidence and empowerment, there is no rush. There is no, I need to force this process, because we know then that if we force out on opportunities that we do not even want to do because we fear not having money, or we fear not things not working out, or we fear people forgetting about us, or we fear the wrong kind of level of judgment. But when we come at these decisions and at these our kind of day-to-day, even from a place of self-trust, of groundedness, of confidence, then there is so much more space to say no, and there is so much more space to say yes. Saying yes to the things that you might never have said yes to in the past, that scare you perhaps a little bit, or that you've always wanted to try, or that you haven't given yourself permission to carve out time for, whether that's self-care or with looking after yourself, or with just trying something new. And no to the things that you know are no longer aligned with your work trajectory, with your creative trajectory, with your business trajectory, with your family or your personal life trajectory, so that you can start to also inadvertently create more boundaries for yourself, and help you to, which will really help you to stay well, to stay energized, to stay calm and confident and empowered by your own self-trust and your own self-belief, because you know at your very core that whatever happens, you're going to be okay. And I say that not lightly, because I know that life does have curveballs that really wipe us out. And emotionally, when we have those moments, our emotions can absolutely take over, because we have fear and anxiety, and the practicalities of life can be extremely challenging. And I'm not diminishing that. You know, financial challenges, work challenges, all of these fears are real. And I understand that. And I have experienced them. And I give you these kind of tips from a place of having both sides of the coin. of knowing that in order to really get things back on track, sometimes we do have to prioritize ourselves. Sometimes we do have to say no to stuff. Sometimes we do have to say yes to stuff that we don't want to do. We do have to say yes to the work sometimes, but even if we don't want to do it, because financially it's going to help us out, for example. But then maybe there will come a time when you're like, oh, actually, this has become a habit now, and this is no longer aligned with where I want to take things. And especially in self-employment, I think we have to be really conscious of this, because we can end up taking on everything for fear of not having the work, or not being liked, or kind of really wanting to achieve the things that we want to achieve. But actually we end up then saying yes to a lot of stuff that is not aligned with the big purpose and the big drive. And so that's where that goal, that bigger vision, that bigger lighthouse, whatever you want to call it, the bigger lamp, the bigger candle at the end of the road, is really helpful. That path then, whichever direction you take, you will still be on the path. There will be lots of different, basically you will have not just one path either, you will have 10 paths perhaps. You will have lots of different ways that you can look to get to that end light, to get to that end goal. So, at this time of year, as we come into the winter months, or whether you're listening to this in the summer, whatever it is, it is a great time to recommit to yourself, to recommit to your trust in yourself, to recommit to your self-belief, to prioritize your well-being through the winter, to be able to keep your energy high, to be able to keep that magnetism and that presence and that confidence in yourself, because the more we do this stuff, the more proof we have of what we're capable of. So when we're always comparing, or in comparison with other people, we are just feeding ourselves with proof of what we're not capable of. So coming back to these 3 things to kickstart your self-belief every single day if you need to keep your self-worth and your self-value and your self-esteem and your self-belief and your self-trust on a level that you can keep building. Because if you don't have it, then it's really hard. You'll be constantly scrabbling. Those kind of bricks will be constantly falling down as you try to climb up, forwards, whichever direction you want to see it as. So number 1, find proof of 3 things, challenges, situations you have overcome in the last 7 days. Write them down, maybe do it every day if you need to. You can do it for 3 things every day from the day before. We overcome so much without realizing it because it becomes natural. You put your foot on the brake when someone drove out in front of you. You overcame a challenge, or someone ran into you and you dealt with it, whatever it is. You've overcome a situation. There is proof there that you are capable. Number 2, ask yourself, if I had a magic wand, what would I change? Be bold. It doesn't mean you're going to action these things, but it will help you to see what's important in your life, and it will help you to see what you actually want. And then you can work backwards and break down those limiting beliefs and those thoughts, the inner critic that says, oh, but you can't do that. And then you can overcome it to say, okay, well, maybe I can't do that, but I'm going to do this. Or yeah, I can. I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to take that leap, whatever it is. How will you change things about how you're doing your life right now if you had that magic wand? And then maybe, play with that belief that it can happen. Number 3, think of a time that you felt really strong, confident, powerful, and empowered. Go back into that memory. And as you're thinking about that time, embody those feelings. Really feel it flowing through your body. Soften the belly, soften the jaw, soften the shoulders, soften the face. Tall, proud, strong posture as you think of this time as well. Really embody it. Embodiment just really means that you're kind of stepping back into that time. What will you do in your next day to commit to the feeling like this again? So what is the next thing that you can do in your day to really cement that feeling into your system? It might be, like I said, that commitment to eating a healthier lunch, or getting that small niggly job done that you've been putting off for ages. That's another one of my toxic traits. Or it's about writing down all the things that you really, really want from question number 2, perhaps. Be creative. Whatever comes up instantly, don't judge it. Don't try and shape it into a should or anything else. Go with it. And what is possible when you realize what you're capable of from that place? Because often when we are in this place of empowerment and strength and self-belief and self-trust, we think of all the things that we would love to do. And then we're like, oh, actually, I've kind of done something very similar, or I've already done that. I'm capable of it. Why have I forgotten that? And you also really hone in on what's important for you when you do that. So be conscious of how you're talking to yourself, because all of this is linked. And when you start to develop that strong inner voice, that strong inner self-belief voice, that strong inner self-trust, you can negotiate better with your inner critic. And so what that means is that you basically start to develop this language that goes on at the back of your mind, that kind of inner dialogue. You can have conversations. Your inner critic might be like, you should have done that better. That was a terrible thing to do. And your self-compassionate voice, your kinder voice, your champion voice can say, yeah, but hang on, you gave it a shot. That was amazing. And then the inner critic might say, okay, well, yeah, all right, but next time you could do it a bit better. And then the compassionate voice might be like, yeah, okay, well, look, I'll listen to you. I'll reflect and I'll have a look at what I could do better. But for now, I'm just going to celebrate the fact that I even tried it. And then the inner critic might be like, all right, fair. I'll speak to you tomorrow. Play with it. And give yourself grace to learn and to get things wrong and to put yourself out there and to do stuff that challenges you, because I think as well we can get very comfortable and also it's very frustrating sometimes when we're comfortable, because we want to move forward, we want to get out of whether it's a salary block or whether it's a job block, a career block. What can you do to up level? What can you do to kind of to not be afraid to take the jump? I've got some stuff that I'm working on here in the background at Club Thrive that I have spent the last year pondering about, but I've been a bit of a wimp about taking a step within what I'm doing with my work. And I'm conscious of it. And so by just being aware of it, that is a step. By being conscious of those thoughts, those fears, those kind of limiting beliefs, those things of, oh, what if I fall? You can replace them with, well, what if I fly? And what does it feel like to let go of those things that I am holding on to for such dear life because I'm scared of trusting myself? What happens if I imagine trusting myself fully? Where does it go then? And actually be surprised by what comes up, because when you believe in yourself that much, even if it's in your imagination, it's incredible what you realize you're capable of. And then don't just lose that. Explore it, keep tapping into it, go to bed imagining what you would like your life to look like, so that you wake up the next day absolutely excited to take the next steps towards it. I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you really are okay. Please keep looking after yourself. Please keep being compassionate to yourself. Share any thoughts that come up. Come and say hi. Instagram, Club Thrive. We're at Club Thrive _. Please do rate, review, or share the podcast. It does make a massive difference. It means that other people can benefit from this advice, this community, this encouragement, this empowerment, whatever you want to call it, this support, this motivation. So keep sharing and keep rating and reviewing. It also, just for my ego, it really helps me to keep coming back with energy every week, because I'm human too. I have a strong inner voice, but I think we all appreciate knowing that we're doing a good job. So this is me telling you, you're doing an amazing job. Keep going. Please keep giving yourself credit and keep resting as well. When you are a striver, when you are ambitious, when you're a high achiever, it's hard to take the breaks, I know, but your breaks and your rest and your things that bring you joy, those choices and those activities are the things that are going to help you to get to where you want to go. So please keep factoring those in as a priority. And yeah, have an amazing week. And I'm super excited to, see where you go with it. All right, take care. Bye.